I see a great American from Utah, excuse me, from New Mexico, has joined us. And somebody who has worked with a senator from Louisiana and a senator who was just before here, Senator Inhofe, chairman of the EPW committee, to trying to find a good way to further strengthen the economic recovery and at the same time to further clean our air and promote our public health and to do good things for our environment. And I just want to say to Tom Udall how proud I am to be his colleague and how much I appreciate his leadership on a really important issue. Environmental law that hasn't been updated in almost 40 years, that frankly doesn't work. It's never worked. And we need to do something about it. And under his leadership, along with our other two colleagues, my hope is that we will. So I'm happy to yield the floor and look forward to what he has to say. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator from New Mexico.
Madam President, thank you very much for the recognition. And let me just say to Senator Carper about TSCA that we've been working on. I mean, you were one of the early senators who really cared about this issue and was involved with it, and you helped it develop. And over time, we did a marvelous thing in terms of improving what Senator Frank Lautenberg had put on the table, bipartisan. He developed a lot of Republican and Democratic support, and you were a key player all the way through. And so we think at this point, as you and I believe, and we do a lot of visiting around on both sides of the aisle, that this is ready to go. I mean, we now have, I think, 53 co-sponsors. We're developing more co-sponsors every day, and we don't think there's any real hostility towards the bill in terms of wanting amendments on that aren't relevant. That's a key factor for us, and both sides, I think, need to focus on that. But I just want to express my appreciation to you for what you've done on TSCA and help blend it into and make it into a bipartisan product. And we've been trying, you know, he's been very busy with the Pope in town and with the sequester facing us and the shutdown and things like that. We've been trying to get onto the floor to talk about this, and I think we're going to continue to do that in the future. But it's tremendously important that this gets some floor time right now, and I know you've been working on that with me. Do you see this as a product that's better than current law? I mean, my sense is it's much better than current law. But
I could, in responding to my friend, I have a friend who, when you ask him, how are you doing, he says, compared to what?
Thanks.
He says, compared to what? And when we talk about the legislation initially introduced by Senator Lautenberg, Senator Vitter, and now co-authored by you and Senator Vitter and Senator Inhofe, with the input from a number of us, I always say, like, well, compared to what? The idea here is to make sure that the EPA does its due diligence on toxic substances in this country. And there are thousands, tens of thousands of chemicals, you know better than I do, that exist in our environment, in our air, in our ground and water. Tens of thousands. Are they all toxic? No. But my recollection, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I think that out of those thousands, tens of thousands, I believe EPA in the last 38 years has actually done their due diligence on really fewer than 200, maybe even fewer than 10 when you get down to it, maybe even just 5. And you say, how long has this bill been around, this law been around? 38 years. And they've now finished work on 5 highly toxic substances. If we can't do better than that, we ought to quit. And this is not the time to quit. So we want to get, it's sort of like in football. In football, now football season's underway. You take the kickoff, you're in your own territory, and you start marching down the field, you get into the other team's territory. Get down to the 20-yard line, and you're in the red zone. Not in the end zone, but you're in the red zone. And I think under your leadership and that of our colleagues, we're in the red zone now. And we need to bring this bill on the floor. 53 co-sponsors, equally divided between Democrats and Republicans. A lot of interest in the House. I think support from the administration. We ought to get this done. Thank you.
Madam President, it bears repeating. Senator Carper is very modest, and he's a humble man, but he has done a lot to help bring it to the point. And I think he's one of the senators here who works the best across the aisle, and that's what's helped. We've had a lot of senators who have wanted to work across the aisle on this bill. As Senator Carper knows, on the Environment and Public Works Committee, he was joined by Senator Booker, Senator Whitehouse, and Senator Merkley in terms of helping mark up the bill and make it a better product. And you talk about going across the finish line. We're with 53 co-sponsors, about evenly between Democrat and Republican. I think it's almost exactly even. That sends a signal to our majority leader that this has tremendous support in both caucuses, and I believe the presiding officer here is also on the bill. So everybody standing on the Senate floor right now is on what is a good bipartisan product. And so we are going to work very carefully in the next couple of days to see that the attention is brought to this, and hopefully we can have an opportunity to have a debate and have amendments, and then meet with the House. The House, as you know, Senator Carper, has already passed a piece of legislation, I think 378 to 1. One person in the House opposing it. And so we have a bill that's alive and ready to go, and we need to get it out of the Senate so we can conference it with the House and get it up on the President's desk for his signature. But I don't know if you have any other thoughts on moving, what's the best way to move forward? I mean, obviously we've got to be bipartisan, but at this particular point, is your sense that we're ready to go from everything you've seen from Environment and Public Works Committee and these other other senators at various places? Is it ready to go?
Well, if I could respond to my colleague's question. I don't care if the Democratic leader is a Republican or a Democrat. They're always figuring out how do we have time on the calendar to get stuff done. And they're always looking for ways. One of the best ways to ensure that legislation actually fits into a reasonably small period of time is to line up bipartisan support. And I want to tell you, I've been here for a while in the Senate, and this is about almost a picture book way to pass legislation, work it up through grassroots, Democrat Lautenberg and Republican Vitter, and now with your role here and others, there's not many bills in the Senate that have 26 or 27 Democrats and an equal number of Republicans. And has everything been worked out? No. Are there going to be a need for amendments? Yes. But is there a need for a filibuster? No. We ought to have the chance to bring it to the floor. And I think we can go to the majority leader, and what we need to do is to visit with him early and often and continue to remind him. And those who believe, whether you happen on the environmental side or happen to be folks from there in the healthcare arena, or maybe in the manufacturing side, who think or helped us craft this, for them to not be silent about it, but to be urging not just us, but the leadership to find time, a couple of days, to bring this bill to the floor and just get her done. So, with that having said, to my colleague, Madam President, if I put down my microphone and pack up my bag, I can have dinner with my wife in the first state of Delaware, and that's my goal. And so I'm going to do.
Thank you, Senator Carper. Thank you very much, and I wish you Godspeed on that train headed to Wilmington, because you've got a wonderful wife to.
It's not the last train to Clarksville, but it is the next train to Wilmington. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me say again, not only on TSCA has Senator Carper helped. We were going to have speeches earlier in the week, and we were unable with some of the scheduling issues and everything to get down here and talk as a group. And we had Senator Whitehouse, who was going to come down, Senator Merkley was going to come down, and several of the key members of the Environment and Public Works Committee that played such a big role in terms of moving this bill forward. And the person that really kicked it off was Senator Frank Lautenberg. I mean, what a star in terms of bipartisanship, and I remember working with him when I was on the Environment and Public Works Committee for a long period of time on a very substantive piece of legislation. It was so good we couldn't find much bipartisanship on it, and he understood that. It got out of the committee. It wasn't ready for prime time here on the floor, and so what we ended up doing was saying we need to go back to square one. And Senator Lautenberg took that very seriously. He met with Senator Vitter. Senator Manchin played a role in that. Senator Manchin was one of the ones that was going to come to the floor and talk, played a role in getting them together. And as a result, a bipartisan bill came out in the last Congress, and it's continued now for almost 2.5 years, and it's a very good product.